you for being here. I wish you could see what I can see right now. It's beautiful. It's people in Texas who are taking the future into their own hands. They're not waiting for somebody else to come along. They're not waiting for somebody else to do it. You've made a decision to do it for yourselves, for your family, for Austin, for your communities, for this state, for your country. I'm proud of you. Proud to be here with you. Yeah. Proud to be part of this. I'm proud of Daniel, who just introduced me, Jay and Annalicia, and everyone who helped to put this event together, got the word out, and for each of you for coming out. You know, Daniel said this, and I'm not trying to brag. And tell me if I need to get off the stage because this is feeding back. Yeah. So, I'm not trying to brag, okay? And if you're from Austin, if you're from Waco, if you're from San Antonio, if you're from some other part of Texas, I love you just as much as I love the folks in El Paso. But I'm not trying to brag by saying this, but we do happen to be the safest city in America today, El Paso, Texas. Who would have thought, right? Those scary Mexicans are just on the other side of the border, coming to get us. In fact, to make sure that they don't, we're building a 30-foot tall wall made of concrete from Brownsville, Texas to San Diego, California. Never mind that the border has never been safer, and don't just take my word from it that El Paso's the safest city today, and for the last 20 years, going back to 1997, it's either been the first, second, or third safest city in the United States. Don't just look at El Paso, don't look at San Diego, also a border community with Tijuana that's the second safest city, or Laredo, or Brownsville, or Nogales. Don't just look at the fact that when George W. Bush began his administration in 2001, there were 1.6 million apprehensions at our border with Mexico, and last year, there were only 400,000. And you know who those 400,000 were? They were freaked out, scared little kids from El Salvador and Guatemala and Honduras, fleeing brutality and violence in 3 of the deadliest countries anywhere in the world. Sometimes, if they were lucky, accompanied by their mom or a cousin or a friend, all too often by themselves, not trying to evade detection or run away from the Border Patrol, but presenting themselves, asking for shelter and security here in this country comprised of immigrants and former refugees. If you look at the fact that more Mexican nationals are going south than are coming north, that we're spending today $20 billion of your money every year on drones, aerostat blimps, 600 miles of wall and fencing that we already have, 20,000 Border Patrol agents with a plan to add another 5,000 under this administration. At a time that in the history of the United States and Mexico, not a single terrorist organization, or terrorist plot has ever used the Mexico border with Texas or the United States to do harm to anybody in this country. Despite all of that, we've got a president talking about military-style immigrant roundups in our communities. We've got a president who's demonizing immigrants and Mexicans, and Mexican Americans by extension, and judges who, because of their ethnicity, are deemed not fit to rule or to serve. We've got a country in many parts gripped by the paranoia and the fear and the anxiety that emanated from that campaign and now controls that White House. It's up to you and to me. And I'll tell you, 30 hours ago in El Paso, Texas, I made my decision. Whether we're going to wait for 2020, 4 more years, to get this country back on the right track, or whether we're going to take this into our own hands and we're going to decide that 2018 is our year. And that 2018 begins right here in Austin, Texas, right now, on April 1st, and that you're going to be part of it. That's the decision that we've got to make. And look, you're wondering, and this thought has entered my mind as I've been thinking about this decision. Can we do this? 1988 was the last time this state sent a Democrat to the Senate in Lloyd Bentsen. And we believed before, and we've had our hearts broken before. And can we believe again right now? And based on that belief, get it done. And I was bragging earlier about El Paso, so I'll share something that maybe isn't to our benefit to give you some balance. El Paso, in the history of that amazing community where I was born, where Amy and I are raising Ulysses and Molly and Henry, where my mom and my sisters are, the community that made me, shaped me, and has allowed me to serve it. That community has never produced somebody who's won statewide office before, ever.
Not yet.
Maybe it's not yet. But let me tell you something, because I think a lot of people in this room feel like they're underdogs. And you can feel like you're an underdog because you're a Democrat. Or you can feel like you're an underdog because you've been counted out or even counted down. Or you could feel like an underdog because no one believes in you or your idea or the things that you want to achieve or what you know to be possible. El Paso is the city of underdogs. This is the city that following World War II, when the best and the brightest of Bowie High School in El Paso, the all Mexican-American segregated high school, were called to service, drafted, went through basic training, served in North Africa, fought in Italy, crossed the Rio Rapido to their deaths, even though Captain Navarrete tried to stop them. But all of them believed so much in this country, in our ideals, in our values, in what makes us Americans, that they were willing to do it and die. After they were buried, after the services, after life continued, years later, 1949, their little brothers were in school at Bowie High School, and Austin, Texas, decided that it was going to host the first boys high school state baseball championship. And so this class at Bowie High School, coached by Nemo Herrera out of San Antonio, Texas, decided they wanted to compete in the state championship. But first, they had to win a game in El Paso. And before that, because they didn't have the money to do it, their moms had to sew their uniforms and make the gloves for them that they couldn't afford to buy by themselves. And they practiced, they believed in themselves through determination and grit and perseverance. They won their first game. They won the city championship. They won the regional championship. And then they got on a bus to Austin, Texas. And along the way, when they tried to stop at a restaurant or a motel, they found signs that said, "No Mexicans, no dogs allowed." Despite the fact that their older brothers had paid the ultimate price for this country. They get to Austin, Texas, they get off the bus, they can't go to a hotel, so they sleep under the bleachers that night, right next to the field on which they will compete the next day. And they wake up that next day, and they play the team from Austin, and they win. And they bring distinction and dignity and honor, not just to Bowie High School, and not just to El Paso, but to our state and to who we are as Americans. That's the spirit of El Paso. That's the spirit of Texas. That's the spirit of this campaign. And you know what? We're doing our own version of having our moms make our uniforms and our gloves. I'm not going to take a dollar, a dime, a penny from a single political action committee or corporate PAC or special interests. There are 535 members of Congress, 100 senators, 435 House members. There are two of us stupid enough, crazy enough, or maybe idealistic enough, because we believe in you, to not take any PAC money at all. And I'm one of those two. And when I run, and as I run to represent you, I'm going to continue to do that. I'm going to rely on you. You're going to drive this campaign. You're going to determine whether we win or lose. And when we win, and when I represent you, you will never have to worry if I make a vote or write a bill or author an amendment on behalf of a special interest are on behalf of the people that I was elected to serve. Because if I win, I will be serving you. You wonder why sometimes, why it is that we tip our hats to our veterans, we thank them for their service. We're grateful for the service members who put their lives on the line in harm's way, who are serving all over the world today in more than 150 different countries. Since we declared war after 9/11 in 2001, we've used that authorization for military force in 6 different countries. Afghanistan for sure, Syria right now, Yemen as well, Somalia, Libya, Iraq. And yet when those service members come back, we don't have the resources to take care of them, make sure they can get in to see a mental health care provider if they have post-traumatic stress disorder or suffering from traumatic brain injury. At a time when more than 20 just today will have taken their own lives. 16 of those 20 were not able to get in and didn't have any help from the VA. You wonder why we don't have the resources, the oversight, the accountability, and the delivery on our commitments that we made to each and every single one of those service members who now today are veterans. I'll tell you why. There's no corporate cash on the VA committee. Folks get sent there if they're in trouble as members of Congress. They never asked to be there as a place of privilege and honor and distinction to serve people in this country because they can't raise money, because they won't get reelected, because they won't be able to continue to play into this system that has captured your government, corrupted it so that the outcomes are in favor of the special interests instead of the real people, including those who need it and have earned it more than anyone else, the veterans of this country. That's why I asked to be on the committee. That's why we're making a difference. That's why we just filed a bill with a Republican member and a colleague in the Senate, Chris Murphy, to make sure that those who have other than honorable discharges, perhaps because they were injured in service to this country, they're suffering from PTSD, and as a consequence, they left the military with an other than honorable discharge. Right now, what that means, no health care for you, no specialty care, no primary care, no mental health care. And it's no wonder that we have such terrible, tragic outcomes in this country. We authored a bill with the Republican, the only way, the bipartisan way to do this. It says, if you have an other than honorable discharge, you will get mental health care, not on an emergency basis, not on an ad hoc temporary provision, but you'll get it all the time until you're better for as long as you need it. That's the way that we need to respond to the needs in this country. I filed a bill this week with Seth Moulton, Democrat of Massachusetts, but also with Don Young, Republican of Alaska, Walter Jones, Republican of North Carolina. Kind of got the 4 corners and the 2 parties of this country represented. You know what that bill does? It says that if we're going to fight a war, we're going to pay for a war. And if we're going to pay for a war, we're going to pay the full cost of that war. The wars that we have fought since 9/11 have all been put on the national credit card. They've all been paid through deficit spending. They've all added to the national debt. Don't let these folks fool you that say it's Democrats and liberals and big spending that have driven this country into debt. It's the endless wars we wage without strategy or defined victory that have no end in sight that are costing this country trillions of dollars. And so our bill says, if you're fighting or if you fought, you already paid the price of this war. But if you haven't, it's time for you to pay. And what you pay into that, $22 billion a year across all 50 states in this country, is going to go into a trust fund that can only be used for the benefit of veterans. And that will ensure that we don't do what we did to the Vietnam era veterans, where we waited 40 years to acknowledge Agent Orange as a presumptive condition and take care of the cancers and conditions that resulted from service. It means that we won't wait more than 25 years for the Gulf War veterans who were exposed to toxins that produce Gulf War syndrome that we still don't acknowledge in this country, we still don't treat, we still don't care for, we still don't innovate the cures that those veterans deserve. And it doesn't even begin to touch what we need to do for our Iraq and Afghanistan era veterans, and frankly those who are serving in Syria and in Yemen, and who served in Libya, and who are running missions over Somalia tonight as we are together. The things that they are exposed to, that we need to spend money to research and innovate and find the cures for, and make sure that they leave full, healthy, productive lives, it won't happen until we start paying for it. And it's not just a Democrat offering this from the House Veterans Affairs and Armed Services Committee. It's Democrats and Republicans from all over the country trying to do the right thing. There's no corporate interest that would have recommended that to me. There's no poll that would have tested it for us. There's no consultant who would have recommended it. It's because I'm listening to you and I want to represent you. And it's why I'm in Austin tonight. It's why I was in Waco this morning. It's why I was in Odessa, Midland, and Big Spring. It's why I was in the Rio Grande Valley before, the Coastal Bend before that, East Texas, North Texas, what the folks in Abilene call West Texas, we in El Paso call East Texas, and of course my hometown, El Paso. So look, you drive this campaign, you decide. I want you to do this. I want you to go to betofortexas.com.
Yeah.
Everyone across this state is watching us right now. They want to know if this is real. They want to know if this is the time that they can believe. They want to know if this is a moment that's worth their effort, worth their work, worth their sweat, worth their dollars. And you have to be the ones to tell them that it is. So when you sign up, and then when you share that, and you absolutely have to. And today in 2017, if you don't share it on social media, it just didn't happen. So you got to be on Twitter, you got to be on Snapchat, you got to be on Facebook, and you got to say, look, I'm supporting Beto O'Rourke from El Paso, Texas, to be our next senator in 2018. Because we're going to make sure that once and for all, and you got to pick your reason, and you got to share it for that reason. He's going to make sure that once and for all, we don't wait for 2020 or for somebody else or some other moment for comprehensive immigration reform. We don't wait some other time for comprehensive campaign finance reform. We don't wait some other time for meaningful jobs for every Texan who wants to work. We don't have to wait for health care to be a right instead of a privilege for those who can afford it. We don't have to wait for Texas. We don't have to wait for this country. We don't have to wait for our families. We don't have to wait for our future. I'm supporting Beto. I'm part of this campaign for any one of those reasons or something that you pick that you know to be true and to be right and to be good for this country. Share that. Share that with everyone you can. That's what's going to make the difference. If we show momentum and we build on that momentum, it will only beget more momentum. That success will beget more success. And folks, we will be able to do this. So I ask you this. Podemos esperar 4 años hasta 2020 para la reforma migratoria. Podemos esperar para alguien diferente en el futuro para mejorar este estado, para mejorar el Senado, para mejorar nuestro país. O podemos empezar ahora, hoy, aquí, en Austin. Look, this is not going to be easy. And we're not even 48 hours into this campaign. And there are 18 months in front of us. And what everyone wants to know is this a flash or will this be sustained? Are we willing to come out for one night? Or are we willing to walk every single day, talk to all of our friends, our neighbors, and even better, the people we don't know yet that we need to listen to and understand and share our perspective and listen to theirs? It's 100% up to you. And I'll tell you on my part, from my commitment, I'm going to work my heart out. I'm going to walk my shoes off. I'm going to be in every one of these 254 counties working for you, making sure that when 2018 comes, we have something to celebrate for Texas and for this country. In advance of all that, thank you all for what you're willing to do. Look forward to getting to meet you. Thank you, Austin. Really appreciate it. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you.